Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So the next sequel that we're going to be covering is a neat one. It came out 34 years after its original. And of course, I'm talking Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama 2, a full moon feature. And for it, we talked to the writer of the film, Kent Roudebush. But Kent Roudebush does not exist. We talked to the man behind Kent Roudebush, Shane Bitterling. So Shane let me in on this because he's buddies with our pal Audio Andy, who we talked to for about his time with Full Moon and all the cool stuff and music at Capitol Records that he does. And Andy worked on a Talking Pony. So we talked about some cool stories with that. And we became buddies afterwards, texting randomly during football season about the Packers. His team, not mine. I'm a Giants fan. But he connected me with Shane. And he was like, I don't know. Shane doesn't, he goes by the name Kent. Maybe he'll let you know his real name. And then all that spoiled it was Apple iPhone. I called the number, thinking I'm leaving a voicemail for Kent. I left the voicemail, didn't say the name on the voicemail or anything, but I hung up the call, and it has his name on my recent calls. It says Shane Bitterling. I'm like, oh man, it spoiled it. But it was really neat to talk to him. We talked by phone for like 30, 40 minutes just before Thanksgiving, and then we reconnected again in February. So it was really cool to learn about his career, learn about, hey, going under a pseudonym, writing, selling movies. And selling movies great, but the process of actually getting it through all the red tape, the approvals to actually get it made. We talked about that process, talked about his journey from Indiana to Hollywood, and his friendship with the late great Dominic Muir, the writer. Did a lot of stuff at Full Moon, wrote Critters. So it was cool because them being such friends and him calling and bounce some ideas off of him by phone, he was able to, and Dominic sadly passed away, he was able to have the trust in Charlie Band, who was like, all right, cool. And then he was able to write in that voice. But man, Shane was a lot of fun. Like talking about how silly the Full Moon movies are, which I think they all know when they make them. They're shot so quick. It was just cool to hear his perspective about the filmmaking process, how many, takes wise, sometimes it's like, all right, we got to get this done so quick, how the writing goes into it, and how he's able to bang these out so fast. He was a lot of fun. Before I start the interview, please, please, please like, share, subscribe, wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. Check us out on YouTube if you hadn't before. The videos are fun. So we put the unedited video interviews out there. So obviously there's some fumbles by me. Our guests are always flawless, but it is neat to be able to see that. And then obviously we share everything on our socials at Sequels Only. But yeah, this is a cool one. Full Moon fans have been going to forums for a long time, Shane has told me, trying to figure out who really is Kent Roudebush. And he reveals it. Not going to say anything about it. I'll let our guest, writer Shane Bitterling, tell you all of it. Enjoy. This is interesting. So your buddy, I guess sort of a mutual friend, because ever since I interviewed the Audio Andy,
because
I've talked to other people that say the same thing. And it's cool because Audio Andy was a really cool guy I connected with. And I talked to him like almost 4 years ago. And then randomly, sometimes they'll send digs if the Packers are playing the Giants or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he connected me with you, and he's like, all right, this guy, his name's Kent Roudebush. If he wants to tell you his real name, he'll tell you. So then he gives me your number, and I call you, and because of Apple, I call, you don't answer. And then when I leave the voicemail and I go back, I see my history and it refreshes from like the number to Shane Bitterling. And I'm like, Andy. So he didn't tell me, but what an interesting thing, Shane. So we'll get to when you started obviously using like a pseudonym for some of the films that you wrote for.
Yeah.
But your beginnings, I know we had a cool conversation like just before Thanksgiving, and we talked a little bit about, we jumped all over the place, but you grew up, if I can remember, Indiana, right?
Yeah, in Indiana. Yeah, about an hour.
I was commiserating my terrible summer when I was in Fort Wayne.
Yeah. Get all those corn husks stuck to that sweat. That's the difference.
So how did it all begin? Like growing up, when was that first time? Do you remember like a movie you watched or something you read that you were like, you know what? I want to work in movies.
As long as I can remember, the first movie I actually saw in a theater, my parents took me to everything they should not have taken me to. They took
I
me,
love that.
it was Porky's, it was, Conan, it was everything.
The eye
Porky,
cover, the parents cover the eyes, like
yeah,
guessing.
not even. I'm just sitting there kind of smoldering and sweating, and my mom and dad and all their friends are kind of at the movies, and they're just like, Porky's in particular is like,
Oh, I know.
I think Shane became a man during this movie, but
Yeah.
but the first movie I ever saw in a theater was Grizzly. The
God,
Yeah,
really?
that was the
That's really cool.
first Jaws with claws. That was the first movie I
Mhm.
ever saw, and uh, I was always fascinated with him. I mean, I was a tubby little couch potato, and I was just sucking in cartoons and Japanese, like Johnny Sacco and everything after school and movies, and I was just addicted to it. We went to the movies all the time. I grew up basically on the other side of the fence from a drive-in movie theater.
Oh my
So
God, that's cool.
yeah. So the owner there was really funny. He would show something like Seventh Voyage of Sinbad as
Oh
the
yeah.
first movie, and then the story of O as the second movie. So the parking lot's full of all these families and kids and everything, and then everybody's like, meow, gone, except for us. But we
Yeah.
would sit a lot of times on the roof of the house and watch movies over there. I couldn't hear them, but we would
God, that's
watch them.
amazing. Oh,
Yeah,
they had the plug-in at that
yeah,
place.
we
They
had
didn't have like
yeah.
the, hey, it's
Well,
89.2 FM or whatever.
at initially they did not. Eventually they did. But when I was really small and we were going all the time, no, it was just that big clunky speaker, which I
That's
actually
cool.
have one mounted out in the other room from that place. But
From that place?
yeah,
When did you go
yeah.
back and when did you get
Uh,
that? Like in high
my
school
my
or later in
parents,
life?
no, that was, I don't know if it was a birthday or Christmas or whatever, but my dad went over and just yanked one out because they were kind of getting rid of it anyway. People weren't using
I'm
them or
sure, yeah.
whatever. So he just yanked one off the post and made a little plaque for it, mounted it and everything, and then sent it out to me. Um, but that the theater owner owned the other actual cinema in town as well. So they knew me because I was there every single day. Just
Everyone, yeah, during the day at the
yeah,
theater, at
yeah.
night at the drive-in. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, I was always obsessed, and, Friday nights, we had our horror host, and that really kinda started my love of horror, and then on Saturday nights, the same channel would have Chopsaki Theater, which was all the kung fu movies, so it was just kind of, well, back in the day, whatever was on TV was on TV, so you just
Ah, exactly.
you didn't pick and choose really. It's just like, that's what's on, that's what's watching. And if it was a movie, I was watching it. So it's just always that. But I was really wanting to get into special effects and things like that. But in Indiana, it was just so hard. I mean, to get stuff to talk to anybody, there was nobody.
Yeah.
Um, but I just knew, I'm going to go to Hollywood and I'm going to make movies. And even at the point where I came out here to do that, I got in LA and I was like, I'm going to make movies. And I had no idea what the hell that meant. You know, I'm like, I don't know if I'm directing, I'm going to this, I'm going to that, I'm going to whatever. And I had always written a bit, um, whatever it was, little stories or love letters or whatever it was. I'd always written, um, but I was working at an international distribution company when I first moved here. And I just sort of started writing because we had projects that needed it, and I was doing development and all of this stuff. And I just kind of was doing it, but also writing is cheap. So, going out and making your own movie, that's very expensive. But,
Yeah.
I can afford paper. And I actually split the screenwriting program cost with another guy. But I was like, and I used that for several years. But I was like, I can do that and it's cheap and I'm kind of okay with it. Or at it, not with it. I had people reading it. And of course, now that stuff, if I looked at it, it's just absolutely abysmal and horrible and everything.
Yeah.
But I just wrote like my first script or first couple scripts, and I got a ton of huge meetings at studios and things like that, and a lot of things were happening, and then eventually nothing happened. But
But how'd you get that in front of people? Like, what was that? Because you're working at that job. Like, what was it? Just was
there
it
were
specs? Any spec script ready or no?
well, one of them was I with a friend, Devin Kelsey, we optioned a comic book. We just came out here and we had big balls and we were just going to do whatever it took. And there were people there was a production company also in the office. They were getting a little bit bigger, and they were a bunch of, you know, Beverly Hills high school and Hollywood high school brats, all sons, rich kids and famous people. And they kind of looked at it as an opportunity. And then they started showing it around, and this person started showing around. So it just started kind of going.
Oh wow.
But we had Russell Mulcahy, really cool guy too, but he was doing this mummy movie that ended up coming out called Tales of the Mummy. And K&B was doing the effects on that and everything else. And actually they were going to get heavily into digital effects. And they did that on that movie, not very good results. And then they eventually
Wow.
just stuck to the makeup and everything. And, they're amazing. But they were involved with the comic book thing. And it was just this whole thing. So it was kind of growing. But
That's
eventually,
cool. Howard's cool. I interviewed Howard. Howard's
yeah,
awesome.
they're all, I don't know them well,
Yeah.
but they were all really, really great guys. But yeah, so it was just that. And then I did some work, not writing, but development and everything of that script. That script was amazing. The movie was not very good, but we were doing some odd things. We had this intern at our place, and for years I don't even know if I ever knew his name. But I've been trying to recall this name, somehow. And they offered him like 10,000. We were developing this weird little thing, kind of said it was kind of like Teen Beat Movies or something like that, so it was like the magazine. And they offered him $5,000 to do it. And he was still in school and everything. And I was just barely out of school. And he laughed in their face, and he's like, "That is so insulting." He goes, "That's not even WGA minimum. What the hell?" He's just going on and on and on. The guy had never done anything in his life. And I was sitting there so pissed because I'm like, I would have done it, like I would do it, but they just didn't offer it to me. And that guy ended up walking. They said, yeah. And I wonder if this guy made it big, or did anything or whatever, or if he got screamed at
And
so
that
bad.
guy was James Gunn.
It could have been, but no, I actually met James Gunn around that time.
Yeah, he was like Troma around that time, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Tromeo and Juliet
Oh
was
my
kind
God.
of like the thing. Yeah. And I met him. Of course, he would never remember me now, but um, yeah, it was actually in Cannes in 1997. We hung out kind of a fair bit because I had a couple friends that worked over at Troma too,
Yeah, that's cool.
and Tiffany Shepis and all this stuff like this.
The best, yeah.
But yeah,
Debbie
so
Rochon, all those
yeah,
girls that do all those flicks are awesome.
yeah, they're all pretty cool. But I ended up quitting, leaving to go to another job, and I had this idea back when I was at Brimstone, um, kind of like an Indiana Jones meets cryptids, and the first one was going to be a Loch Ness monster thing, and they called me out of the blue, and they're like, "Hey, remember that idea you had? You want to write that?" And I'm like, yeah, totally. So I wrote it, and that was the first thing I had produced. So,
Oh my god, that's
yeah,
awesome.
that movie's it's an oddity too. It's not very good. The script was better.
What was the
But
name of the movie?
Beneath Loch Ness, or as we call it, Beneath Loch Mess. Um, it was actually, it could have been pretty cool. The guy who directed it was Chuck Comiskey, and he was James Cameron's like right hand tech man. So
Oh
he's the
wow.
guy who developed all of these cameras. He developed all the 3D for all this stuff and everything. He did effects on a lot of movies, but he was directing this. Really great guy. Fred Kunert was a producer, but then they had all these other producers on there. Everybody was fighting. Everybody was this, everybody was that, everything, blah, 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 on and on and on. I thought it was kind of great because this was my first movie, and they ended up all of the producers were at war with each other, and they ended up just it sold to Miramax, like Miramax, Buena Vista Home Video, and they released it completely unfinished. They yanked it away from the director and the other producers.
God.
So it's not color timed. It doesn't have final sound at all. The sound's really weird. And the effects of all things are like in television. Remember in television? Like
Yeah.
it's all pre-res stuff. But it just became this sort of huge rental. Um
That's cool.
yeah, and a friend of mine actually had a meeting over at Miramax one time, and he goes, I was over at my friend's office, and he had your Loch Ness poster behind his desk. And he goes, oh, my friend wrote that. And he goes, dude, thank him because we made so much fucking money off of this. And I'm
Oh my
like,
god.
but it's one of those ones that for just years and years and years, it would just show up on every weird channel channels that don't even play movies. It would show up on that channel, just oddly. And, that just kind of started it all, but, nothing ever happened with that series of cryptid movies, but, there it is. And it's kind of warts and all, but yeah, it's, not even a finished movie.
Which is crazy. I wonder, not saying that if it was finished and everything was color timed and everything was perfect, you wonder, like, would it have that same staying power? People watched it and like fell in love with it, like
Yeah.
because of those warts and all.
Well, it's odd because I get people that tell me how much they really liked part of this story or that, or, different parts of it, over the years. But actually I ran a video store up in Bel Air for quite a while after this. And John Ritter was one of the customers there. And he was super nice, but very quiet, didn't speak unless you really kind of forced him. And I go, he returned it, and I go, oh, wow, Beneath Loch Ness. I go, what did you think of that? He goes, it is good. Like everybody told him that it was a total piece of crap, but he was trying to convince himself. But I'm like, it was just the way he said it. I've never forgotten it. It was just so funny. And I didn't tell him that I wrote it or anything, but it was just like, I go, hey, you know what? Shut up. Just John Ritter said it is good.
Yeah, yeah. God, that's amazing, man.
Yeah,
And I think it's cool. Like Vernon Wells is in that, so it's always cool with those movies. And I think that was always like that formula for that mid
yeah,
budget. It's
yeah,
like, all right, let's get that person that people know
yeah,
because Vernon's a great actor, but that guy's
yeah,
in so much because
yeah,
he is in like 2 films. Not saying other roles, like even a small role in Weird Science,
yeah,
where he's kind of like the Mad Max character in
yeah,
that one.
yeah.
But it's so
It's
wild. Like when
awesome.
I interviewed him like 3-4 years ago, I'm like, look at his IMDb. I'm like, this guy's so busy, but that's the
Yeah,
formula. You get those fresh faces, and then you have that one,
yeah,
and then they hope
yeah,
that that is able to bring people in.
yeah. And he was he was a nice guy, but he was I don't know what like at lunch nobody would sit with him. I don't know if they were kind of
Ah,
scared of him or whatever. But I always went and sat next to Vernon Wells because it talked to Vernon Wells because like this is Vernon Wells, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, it had Patrick Bergen in it. It had some weird, had some dumb stuff. I mean, some people when they see it remember it for like there's something in there that's just so stupid that I'm like, I did not put that in the script. It just somebody just did it, you know. But Patrick Bergen shows up in this scene when he's going to go kill the monster, and his face is painted like Braveheart, and and it's just this. You're watching the movie, and you're like, what? And people always remember that because it's just so dumb. But you know, hey, that's the first one, so
You got a movie made.
I got a
How
movie
many
made. You
people
know,
try to
yeah,
write, go out there and don't get something made?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you're a few years into it, you get it made, at least you get your name out there. Again, like you said, writing is one of those things. Like I think we talked on the phone. Like I talked to Michael Grace, or like Poltergeist and a ton of other movies. But when you're like looking at a writer's IMDb, it's not always going to tell that story because they're not working on it. Actors have the opportunity if they don't get like that lead or second lead, they could be
yeah,
in the back or have a quick
yeah.
scene. But like writers, it's not really like that. It's like kind of all or nothing for the most part, right?
Yeah, 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 you can, well, I mean, I've experienced a lot. I've had a lot of ups and downs and, you know, at one point, sold a huge, like, summer tentpole movie, and this was just sort of like the it was every writer's dream, and, this is what I finally this is what I came here for, it's this, and it was this giant thing, called Witchfinders, and they were attaching Angelina Jolie to play the witch,
Oh my
and
God.
all this other stuff, and and then it's like, well, the writer's dream became the writer's nightmare because it ended up just being an absolute nightmare, and at the end of the day, the movie never got made, but because of that sale, every single studio bought a witch script, and every one of those have been made, and every one of them, and I read most of the scripts, and there's development, they've changed over the years, but every single one of those scripts has some element from my script that wasn't in
Wow.
there initially, because it was like, it was steampunk, it was this, it was that, and I was like, oh, that's okay. But yeah, them's the breaks.
Oh man.
That
So how does that happen? Do you have an agent after like Beneath Lock Yes? Do you have an agent or are
I
you just
I
submitting? Like how did somebody read that one?
I didn't have an agent. I actually had a writing partner that I did that with, and
Okay.
he had an agent, and then we I signed on with her, and she sold that thing in like 2-3 days. There was a bidding war on it, and which is, and the other thing, it's like it's a writer's dream.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was a small bidding war, but there was a bidding war, and
Yeah.
it got out there, and then absolutely we had tons of meetings, together on our own, everything else. And, it was like one of the top 10 writers to get to know, all this other stuff. And just nothing happened. We couldn't do it. We tried everything. And that writing partner was something else too. But that
Yeah.
was a lot of the problem. But it was just, we weren't meeting people that were actually doing stuff. They were at studios and they were here or that, or it was just sort of, it was the right place, but the wrong person, or it was the right
Yeah.
person at the wrong time. And I know one time this is where I actually had really shaky legs because I was always good in a meeting, wasn't worried about it. I'm like, I can bullshit and, anything, just
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah.
And, we had a meeting at Amblin and I was like, oh my God, Amblin, the ultimate, you know?
Yeah.
So we go in and we're sitting on this big couch that just sucked you all the way down into it. And there's, the World of Worlds, like standee, there's Jurassic Park stuff everywhere. There's just everything, and we're just always like this. And we were told to go in with big ideas, and we had a bunch of big ideas. And we pitched them, and the guy at the end of the meeting goes, "Yeah, we're not really looking for anything like that. We want to do a movie about like a drama about a butler. Like I think we're going to do a drama about a butler." Uh, and he goes, "Yeah, so that was a good way to spend an hour." And he just kind of got up and walked in the other room, and we called our agent afterwards, and it was like, she's like, "How'd it go?" We're like, "Don't have any idea what this is." I don't have any idea what this is.
That's
So
insane.
yeah,
How is that? How does that usually go? I never like one thing I never thought about, even though obviously it makes total sense, I guess, in the industry. And then from doing these interviews, like almost 6 years, like directors auditions, but like a writer's audition, like
yeah.
obviously if somebody has an idea, like, all right, like Steven Spielberg, like writes down a story and say, hey, this can become Poltergeist. I need somebody to write it. And then he like finds people. So like in me like that, obviously not like that guy was pulling your leg. How in depth are they going with it? Are they looking at the script with you and saying like, how about, Bob, can Bob be a girl?
Oh, believe me, on that witch thing, at a certain point, because just for months, we like 100% rewrote that script multiple times. And it was always because there was one very, the alpha producer in the room because of their personality, not because of anything else. And then there was
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
else. And somebody would just say the dumbest idea ever. But everybody else would be like, yes, that's great. And then we would have to change the entire script just to fit
yeah.
that one stupid idea. And and I don't know how we did like 11 or 12 total rewrites of this thing. And they kept asking, doing this, doing this, doing this. And at one point, a guy said, one of the producers goes, "But I don't understand why there's so many black cats and there's all these women standing over cauldrons." And I was just like, what the hell are we doing here? Why
Are
did
you
you,
looking at the page, buddy? It says witch.
yeah, like, why did you buy this?
Yeah.
And like, and then you're also thinking, because there was other people interested, why didn't we go to them? Why can't we get turn back time? But it sounded like they were just the best and they knew exactly what they were going to do. But the one guy who we really had faith in, he was great. Uh, he ended up quitting, going to another company. So then we were just kind of like, oh, we're kind of dead here.
And you probably have to get to the point, like, it's not like they're like, "All right, you get another rewrite, here's another check." I'm sure it's just like you're rewriting on your own dime, sort of, no?
Well, they really milk it because the one that counted was, and that's what WGA was striking for, one of the things. But you can do 1,000 rewrites, but the only one that matters is the one that gets turned into the studio.
Oh, that's a
So
joke.
yeah, 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 it really sucked. And it got to that point where we were at the end of our contract. They weren't going to offer us any money. And I said, because they had another team write it, the guys that did Reign of Fire.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the Matthew McConaughey movie. They did a
Mhm.
rewrite, and it wasn't even much of a rewrite. It was just a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I mean, these guys know what they're doing, and it was cool because it was basically our script just better. And
Yeah, yeah,
so that was cool. But then they sacked them, had somebody else, then somebody else. The thing is, nobody knew what they wanted. There were
yeah.
just two, nobody knew at all. And then when somebody goes, well, what are all these black cats doing in this witch script? But I was just at that point, I was like, I don't care if they make it a monkey movie. Just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
just,
yeah,
just make the movie,
yeah,
and of course they never did, but what to do? But it's like,
yeah,
it's Hollywood, but I had a nasty divorce with the writing partner very shortly after that. And I had a couple specs. He had some other stuff that he was doing. And the spec that I had was getting really well received. But the agent just, I think she was just really over the fighting, the
yeah.
fighting between the two of them. I think she was over it. So, but I was like, you have to send it out on a rainy day. So every time it would rain, I'm like, hey, you're going to send the script out. She goes, no, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. It's not time. And she just wouldn't send that script out. And then she was a very nice woman. She did great for me initially, and then not really much after that. But she died.
Yeah.
She ended up
Oh
dying.
my god.
So yeah, yeah, it was kind of abrupt and sad. So it was, that phone call saying, hey, this is what's happening, and probably aren't going to be around for a month, but I'm not reachable. So it was
Wow.
horrible. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just, it's like, well, that's just another thing that didn't happen. You know, I
But you got
think
to keep, you know,
a lot of writers
just keep
just,
chugging along.
you got to keep
Yeah.
chugging. You never know. You never know. So, and
Yeah, that's a shame. Like with the writing auditions, I talked to somebody that I don't know if they did a rewrite or just did a pitch meeting of how they would rewrite something, and they didn't take like the idea. And but then like when the movie eventually came out, like years and years later, he's like, I don't think that was in the script. Like the idea that he gave, I think that's
yeah,
kind of crappy. Because wouldn't they be
yeah,
like, if somebody came in and gave you like the most amazing idea, but you're like, man, I kind of don't like this guy, and then the next guy comes in, and you're like, this guy's I like this guy. Couldn't I just be like, hey, one thing think you should add is this
yeah,
guy should have, I don't know, like it's kind of a
yeah,
shitty thing. I know for like the producer, it's like hiring somebody for a job, but it's like, in one sense, it's not fair for the person getting hired if they're giving you good ideas and then you don't hire them and then use those. I don't know.
that's Hollywood. You just
That's
boiled it down.
Hollywood,
You
right?
just boiled it down to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
barest
yeah.
bones there.
That
Yeah,
is true.
yeah,
Oh man.
but
So
yeah,
you're still obviously writing all the time.
yeah.
You're trying to get stuff out there. And then the next credit that's on here, obviously you're still working in between, but Desperate Escape, a TV movie
Oh
that
yeah,
you wrote?
yeah. That was a Lifetime channel movie. Uh, and I got a call, and actually I was recommended by somebody to these producers, and they just go, okay, yeah, so this is kind of what we're doing. So what I did was sent them like a very detailed outline of what I was going to do because they wanted that. And they looked at that and said, yeah, this is great. This is great. And I'm like, but all of this is cool. Like, we don't have to shoot on a boat, but can you like shoot a boat because the end, or, kind of fake it or appear or something like that? No, it's all fine. Perfect. And so I wrote the script and they came back to me, wow, what the hell? We can't do any of this. There's a boat and there's a this and that and that and that and that. So I had to completely rewrite that thing again. And then they went and shot it. And I had a buddy over, Courtney Joyner, another fantastic
Oh
writer,
yeah.
legendary writer. And we watched it when it aired, and he's like, "So who's this guy?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know who that guy is." Well, who's this character? I don't know who that guy is. But there was like three
Oh.
other names on the script, including the producer's wife, and then the director kind of rewrote everything, and I like,
Do they let you know that, or it's just like, hey,
no,
watch the movie, you'll find out.
yeah,
Surprise.
that's what it was. That's what it was. I'm like, I mean, it happens, totally
Yeah,
happens
no, I know.
all
I
the
wonder
time.
if it's
But
an
I'm like,
oversight or a purposeful of I don't want to tell this guy. I don't want to
yeah,
tell
it's
this
like,
person.
but then they asked me to write another one, and they had like
Oh, okay.
17 ideas, and all. I mean, one it was for one script they had like 17 ideas, and I go, But what do you want?" Well, we don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I wrote a script, and they're like, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, it's fine. We'll have you do some rewrites on it. And then that never happened. And then like 8 months later, one of the guys at the company uh, put out his version of that. And so it's like, oh, why should I pay other writers, to do this stuff when I can just do it myself? But
Yeah.
that happens all the time too. But I mean, I like doing that stuff. I liked it a lot. I mean, I'd rather everything have monsters or blood or
Yeah, yeah,
something in
yeah.
there, but like my wife watches Lifetime all the time, but also that's
But it's probably
probably,
always good to like change it up, try
yeah,
different
and
genres.
I like that type of stuff. I have, several other scripts like that and everything. I enjoy it. And,
You still there?
the thing is with that one, um, also kind of a mess of a movie, but it's the most seen movie that I have just because it was on Lifetime and, everybody's mom watched it. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I had, a bunch of people that I went to high school with. Hey, was that your name on that thing? I didn't know you were doing that stuff. And at that point I'd written like a few other things, but that's, yeah, I like, yeah, I like that stuff. I'll do more.
That's cool. What's your usual writing process? Obviously, like that, like an outline, like the detailed outline. But
Yeah.
how do you write? Is there like a obviously maybe it's different now, but like then is it like all right, I'm writing all night long, or did you have a kind of like a system?
No. When I do that, my brain never really shuts off, but I try to treat it like a job. I get up, I get my shower, get whatever, do all this stuff and try to come back, sit down at the desk at a certain time and I'll sit here for, 6 hours or 8 hours and work on things. But then sometimes if I'm on a little jag, then I'll, you know, eat dinner with the wife and it's like, okay, I gotta go back before because I'm totally garbage.
Yeah, yeah.
I will not remember this. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but but I a lot of these I did a lot of full moon stuff. And
How'd you link up with them? How'd you link up with Charlie? How'd that
so
happen?
I I
And
I'd met Charlie before because well, a few times because I'm really good friends with Courtney Joyner. He did a lot of the, the really good stuff back in the '90s, uh, Puppet Master 3 and all that stuff. But I went to the set with him a lot, and then my other friend Brian Muir was kind of the go-to full moon guy. and he wrote Critters.
Oh, cool.
Created Critters. He was a great friend. He was very sick, got very sick. He had cancer, and he lived. I don't know if you know L.A. much at all, but everybody we knew lived up in the valley. Brian and I lived on the west side, kind of down. Well, he lived in Venice, and I just lived right up the street. So that means we automatically had to become best friends because we were just in the same vicinity of each other. But yeah, we really got on. But he would always call me, and he's like, "Hey, I got to do this thing for Charlie." He goes, "I'm trying to think of something." So he would bounce all this stuff off me all the time. But he got very, very ill, and he was still writing and struggling. And my wife and I were, with help of others, but it was really kind of us because we lived there. We're taking care of him,
Wow.
and he died. So I had, the Brian Muir Memorial, where we found this print of, that's a whole other story, but we found this print of Critters and showed it at a theater. And it was like a sold out house up there at the New Beverly. And then a week or so later, we had a big kind of party at this bar, and Charlie showed up. Charlie and Brian really, really got along. And I think it was Tom Calloway, probably, who was the DP of a lot of these things, and a great friend of both Brian and I. I think he said, "Hey, why don't you just hire Shane? Shane knows all of Brian's stuff, and he's a great writer." He goes, "If you need stuff," because he needed some things immediately that Brian was unable to do. In fact, he wrote the first draft of it was Evil Bong 3, and he had me read it, and he goes, "Hey, can you believe that this was written with a brain tumor?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, yeah." You think anybody will buy it? Like, I don't know. But that's what he did. So he talked to me, and then that was that. And I was uh kind of, my first thing with him was tasked to fix up Evil Bong 3. And I know Brian, he had all these setups for jokes, and there are like tons of setups for jokes, and he never paid them off. Or I was like, we're both total Star Trek dorks. So I'm like, "Oh, that's a Star Trek thing that he was trying to do, but he didn't actually do." So I rewrote like all of these jokes and all of this stuff and put in all these Star Trek things that like only super dorks would even pick up on. And I gave it to Charlie, and he's like, "What the hell is this? Why are you talking?" Like, Brian's words were gold, to him. And he goes, who the hell are you messing with Brian's stuff? Like, I know Brian would, that's probably what he was going for, and he didn't. And he goes, "No, just take it back. Just fix a couple things. So I did that, and then off we went, but then it just kept going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And I was like, I don't know, 30, 32, 34
I'm sure
movies
they
later.
pump him out.
They
Yeah.
pump them out. And, Charlie didn't know this, but I think he caught on because he would always like, "Oh, hey, we're doing, Evil Bong 4. Make
Yeah.
it awesome. See you in 2 weeks." And I was like, and he would have like one scene, like I think he would go to bed, and as his head was hitting the pillow, he would come up with some insane idea, and that's what he would base the whole movie on. Just for that one scene that he wanted to do. So he would
Oh
tell
my
me,
God, dude, that's John DeBont.
yeah,
That's what he did for
yeah,
Speed 2.
yeah,
He had a dream about a boat crashing into a thing, and then like made a movie. Basically, like the
yeah,
whole end scene was that.
yeah. So, and sometimes I think that one idea was like a kink, so it was like, I want to
Yeah.
see it. I want to see this. So I was happy to oblige, but I would kind of stomp around the house and pout for a week or so, barely thinking about it. But I was like, God, I gotta write another one of these goddamn Bond things. I hate this. I hate the evil Bond. I just hate this crap. Blah, blah, blah. I call everybody, everybody's sick of me. And then I was like, okay, I got like 3 days left. I need to do it. So I would write all of those scripts in 3 days. And I would, I would outline it, but I would sit here and his scripts are short, you know, like 65 pages.
Oh yeah, because usually about an hour, right? Those movies
Yeah.
aren't too long.
Yeah. Well, the new ones are like, well, they're a little longer now, but for a while they were very specifically 1 hour, could not be 1 minute more, all this stuff. So, um, but, uh, I would, do like 20 pages a day. I like, that gives me like 5 days to do this, and then I would procrastinate and I'm like, crap, now I got to do 25 pages today. And that's like, crap, now I got to do 30 pages in 2 days, today and 30 pages tomorrow. So I think he kind of figured out after a while that I was doing these really, really quick. But I also became known as somebody who can write really, really fast. And I mean, good. It's questionable because those movies are kind of what they are. But I would have
Yeah.
other people like, hey, I need this thing. Can you get it to me in like 3-5 days? I'm like, well, look, I mean, that's a real idea. That's a real script. You want me to actually take a little longer on it, but even on the full moon stuff, I'm like, if I spend more than 3 days on it, I'm losing money. I looked at. So
Yeah.
but I'm like, I can turn in something really, really quick, but it's not gonna be great, And the thing about Charlie is, um, eh, he'll have notes. He's kind of a writer's dream. He'll have notes, but they're not like structure or, anything that's like gonna make you pull your hair out. They're all like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you have this thing kind of in the background of this scene. Can you make that a ginger dead man mask?" And he goes, and it was like, "Oh yeah, I'll put that in there." And those are his notes. But I know when I first started, I'd think in my head, I'm like, okay, we got this idea, this thing. I need 5 girls in this house. So I'm like, that's how it has to be. I can do it. Doesn't have to be 6, but I can do it with 5 girls in the house. And then I would do the script and he would, the first couple times he was like, "Oh, that's one too many girls. You got to cut one of the girls." So I was like, and which is really difficult to do, and when they're all in kind of like one location and stuff like that. So then
Yeah, it's hard. One's having
yeah,
a conversation with the one, and then you have to go to
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like,
pain in
well,
the
they're the
ass.
2 survivors and they're talking at the end. And now it's like, okay, are they going to be talking to themselves? So I just learned, well, part of writing is figuring things out like that and who you're working for and all of that stuff and what they want and what they're going to do and what they're capable of. So I'm like, I know that this script needs 4 girls, but I'm only going to do it in 3. I got to figure out how to do it with 3 girls because that's what he's going to do.
Ah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
so you know, there's been a lot of other people that have tried to do these scripts and they're so huge and they're so complicated and they're so this. I'm like, no, you it's not easy to do these. You can't have action on everybody. Like you're never going to have a car blow up. You're not going to have a stunt. You're
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
have this. You're not going to have this. the puppets are not real people. They're actually puppets. So you can't have them dismantle a car. You just have to do these quick little things. I'm like, mostly the puppets are just glued to a shelf and their arm kind of raises, a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. Yeah,
But
the
it's like,
later Puppet Master ones weren't moving
yeah, it
much.
sucks. Because I wrote X, Puppet Master X, and I really thought that script was cool. Thought it was good, and
We reviewed that in audio. Andy texted me afterwards because my one big gripe was the not moving. Because just growing up on those movies,
yeah,
again, it's like time is money. Like I've done stop motion as a hobby,
yeah,
nothing close to
yeah,
what movies can do. But
yeah,
just thinking about what I can do, or like what I show my daughter how to do, it takes like 30 minutes to move 20 seconds. Like if you
yeah,
really want to
yeah.
move it right and have like cool effects. So I get why he doesn't do it anymore because time is money. The quicker you can
Yeah.
shoot, but it's just a shame when
Oh, it
their
sucks.
just heads are moving and yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tom Devlin, the guy, the puppet wrangler and the guy who did the makeup for so many of those movies, he's a great friend, great guy. I would call him up because that was his thing, was Puppet Master. Like I always wanted to do this. This was my favorite franchise, and that's I just wanted to do these movies. And I said, how hard is it to have a puppet do this? Like, I know it's going to be glued to a table, but can his arms like spin like this, like for the werewolf, like and to shred people up? And he's like, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
totally easy." He goes, "Yeah, we could do that." So I would write that stuff in, but it was just never shot. Like he just wouldn't shoot it,
Oh,
and that's why I came up with that tank, um, you know,
yeah.
Blitzkrieg. Like it's an RC car. It's a puppet built on an RC car, so it can roll around. Like, and so they had it all working. Didn't shoot it. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like this, the stuff was there and it could have been done. It just wasn't done. But yeah, and then the entire audio Andy actually called me out one time, and this was probably, I don't know, maybe the 10th movie or something that we did, and he goes, "What's the ending of this movie?" I don't know. I don't know. He's like, "What do you mean you don't know? You wrote it." And I go, I didn't write an ending." He goes, "What do you mean you didn't write it?" I go, They never get shot, so I don't waste my time." And it like really irritates me, that I like spend, you know, the whole script is building. Usually when I'm thinking, I think of like the ending first, and then I work my way back. That's how I
Yeah.
do a lot of this stuff. Not every time, but sometimes. And I'm like, that ending never gets shot, ever. So
Yeah.
I don't write it. And it's kind of like an ending, but it's not an ending, So I just sort of end it there. And he goes, "You son of a bitch." He's like, "I knew something was weird because he goes, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell the ending was on this one, but there is no ending." But nobody ever said anything, only Andy. So
Only Andy. I'm trying to
only
think.
Andy.
Maybe we didn't cover that one. I'm trying to think. Was the one you wrote the one where there's like a very attractive blonde that kisses like an old man?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that was you.
That
Yeah.
one sort of had an ending, but it
Which
wasn't.
one was that? What movie? What movie was that?
That
Axis of
was
Evil or?
uh Puppet Master
Oh no, it was
X.
Axis Rising. It was
Yeah,
Nazis.
Access
Oh
Rise.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
But that one,
What a lucky guy that was.
yeah,
I
I
me and my
know.
buddy, because I didn't know who wrote it. I was like, that's probably the guy that wrote the movie. Like this very attractive blonde
Yeah,
just starts making
I
out with this old scientist guy
yeah,
out of nowhere. But there
yeah.
was funny characters. I don't know what the guy's name was. I don't know if his name was like Sarge or there was like a really
Oh,
jacked kind of military
yeah.
guy.
Matt,
He was really funny. That guy,
he's
I love
awesome.
movies like that. He like owned the role,
Yeah.
knew what he was doing. It was great.
He was such a joy because his name was Mad Brad Potts. And
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he was a total character. He passed away a few years ago, sadly. But we did like 3 movies together, but I was like, um, whenever I'm like, okay, this is going to be Brad Potts, and I know or knew, writing this, I could totally get away with like anything because he's going to make it better. He was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of over the top because man, so many of these actors and actresses, there's no energy, no nothing. They can't deliver a joke. They can't, do anything. And on those movies, we can't afford much of anything. So it's a lot of talk, and it's a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of just jokes and you know juvenile crap on a lot of these things, or just this long-winded setup for a punchline, and it's like, oh god, none of these people could deliver that. But then you had Brad Potts,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, he's awesome, so you can just kind of go full out, writing stuff for him because he gets it. And the same thing, Circus Shaleski, he's an awesome a chameleon of an actor. He's been in a bunch of these things, and he's one of those guys like you've seen him 100 times and he never looks the same. He's even come to auditions and we didn't know it was him. It was
Oh, wow.
dude, that guy was great. And he's like, yeah, it's me, Circus. Oh shit. Yeah, he's like a total chameleon, but he's amazing. But he gets it. There's just not a lot of people that get it.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I think that's why it's funny when you look at these movies. I think some of them like nail it in a sense. Like, I don't know, did you see the new why can't I think of it? What's the ninja movie from Samurai Cop? Did you ever see Samurai Cop?
Yeah, Samurai Cop. Yeah, that
Did you
one.
see the new one? The sequel that had like Tommy Wiseau in it? They did like one of
Yeah,
those like, hey, again, at this point they know that it's like it's so weird to explain. It's like when I talk to George Hardy from Troll 2, it's like the reason that movie works is because those people were all like, this is an acting job.
yeah,
I'm a professional actor, which I'm sure
yeah,
everybody goes into those movies. But I feel like if okay, we're making this movie that's based on this really campy one, you're gonna try to be that. Like they were just trying to do whatever because it was a movie that wasn't really even called. It's not even a troll. It's about goblins.
right,
But for some
right.
reason, obviously they want to do that. Hey, remember the first one? Like we're just gonna name it this, which is
Yeah, yeah. Samurai Cop is a hoot. The second one just it was too intentionally over the top and goofy, and
yeah, and they
or they
casted everyone we love from the '80s. Like
yeah,
they talk,
yeah,
Lisa London was in it, who
yeah,
I know you worked with
yeah,
on the 50-foot cam girl.
yeah,
Christine DeBelle had
yeah,
like a small role in it. They were like, she was a cop
yeah,
in it. So it's like sometimes it's like you watch these movies, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Lorraine London has a sword in the movie, and
yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
what is going on? Like all these silly things, but it's so
yeah.
hard to capture, that campiness of the movie.
Yeah,
I think
no,
that
almost
works. Like
nobody really ever does.
it's hard.
It's
It's
hard.
magic.
Yeah, yeah. It's it, I think when you try very earnestly and fail, that's where that magic happens,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the Ed Wood thing. Those were all taken very seriously, but when everybody's like, "Hey, let's go yuck it up and you know mug and do all this stuff," it doesn't really work. At least not for me. You
No,
know,
no, you're right. That's why, like, it's so funny when a movie intentionally, like, we're gonna be serious, we're gonna be a comedy, like
yeah,
Airplane, like that
yeah,
kind of comedy.
yeah,
But like, if somebody goes into a movie and like saying, "Oh yeah, I want this to be campy," you can like tell why you're watching it, and that's
yeah,
why like so many movies like just it's lightning in a bottle, and then
yeah,
it's so hard to recreate. Like Tommy Wiseau, who wanted to become like this big star, that movie works, and then it's just like it's gonna be so hard for him because the movie works because of how ridiculous and
yeah,
silly and
yeah,
everything. Hey guys, you want to go throw a football? And then it's like they're on a roof. They're just throwing a football on a roof. You want to
yeah.
play football? Like it's just some of those like things. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I just watched a couple weeks ago New York Ninja, And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's absolutely hysterical. And
yeah.
it's, but that guy, they were really trying to make a real movie, but the thing that makes it work is that, was it vinegar syndrome? Everybody
Yeah, yeah,
involved
yeah.
with the restoration of that, or the everything that they did with it, which sounds like a lot. They were trying to be very true to the period and not wink, wink, and all this stuff. They were just, everything was trying to be very true, including the score and the voiceover actors and everything. And they have all those great people that we love as a voice. And it's like they were doing it very honestly and not like, hey, 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 look at us,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it's really difficult. But if you kind of get those people, that you don't get those people very often, that really just, I mean, they're beautiful and they have that face and they have whatever it is, but then you put them on uh, screen and they're just like a black hole.
Yeah, yeah.
Jessica Morris is a actress that I've worked with a lot, and she's amazing. And um, was put her in these scenes, and they're like, oh, Jessica can absolutely do this 100%, say the most ridiculous lines and everything, but keep a straight face and everything. But then you put her with somebody else who was kind of our, flavor of the month over there at Full Moon. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, it drags Jessica's performance way down because she doesn't have anything to work off of.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but I
So
always tell
here,
people to overact. Don't act,
yeah,
overact. Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name? Like at this point, obviously, I think because you mentioned you were having some,
Yeah.
you're getting meetings, scripts are going up, and then
Yeah. Well,
so how did you come up with the name? I get why you did it, but how did you
so
come up with
yeah.
that name?
Well, this was, I wasn't thinking. It was sort of a last minute thing. And Kent Roudebush was actually my uncle who died. It was
Really?
it was my mom's brother who died 20 some years ago, but he was this, well, he was barely 5 feet tall, missing most of his fingers, huge cowboy
Oh my
hat,
god.
all of this stuff. I mean, he was a character. Cotton from King of the Hill. That was my
Yeah,
uncle.
yeah,
Yeah, little
yeah.
guy, but loud and very crass and crude and everything. I was like, yeah, that kind of fits these evil punks. So I just like, he's going to get his, he was the black sheep of the family, the whole thing. I'm like, it's just going to be a Kent Roudebush. And and I figured that was like one and done. And then
That is
it
cool.
kind of just
You know
kept
what I
going.
thought?
Well, my mom
I thought
found
for
out and
some
didn't
reason.
think it was cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
no, my brother ratted me out. And
What?
yeah, she didn't think it was very cool. She's like, your cousins, when they find out about this, they're gonna be pissed, all this stuff. But I just I just kept going at it, and Charlie was like, I got another one for Kent. I got another one for Kent. But also it was sort of like, well, I had the meetings and I had all of this and had all of that. And but it was like most people on the set used a pseudonym. It was kind of everybody but Charlie. So I was like, I'll do that too. And
Yeah.
kind of just kept going and going and going and going and going. But there were things in some of those movies where I was just like, I'm never going to come clean on that. Like, I've had people try for over a decade, like I'll be at a book signing or something and I'll hear somebody's kids from across the room trying to get a reaction out of me, and I'm unflappable. You know, I had,
Wow, that's
yeah, the
amazing.
IMDb message boards. there was a huge thing on Kent, and I had a few friends that would go on there and totally shill for it too. Like, no, 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 I know Kent. He's a good guy, and he's lives in Wisconsin, and like this had this whole history, and tons of interviews, all this stuff. And I would do like I've done interviews as both of me, at the same time, and it would get confusing and muddling. But there were things in there, some of those that I didn't want to be associated with, at all,
Yeah.
no matter what. But it
Like
was
a giant Elvis, like that Elvis scene where I told you I interviewed the actress in that
yeah,
scene. It's
yeah,
just things like that. I get it, but you know what's crazy? Like us talking about it like this, like I'm not the biggest country music fan, but I respect people, whatever they like, they like. I wouldn't be like, oh man, that's but like the audience that Full Moon has, it is pretty amazing. Like I enjoy Full Moon. I'm
yep,
more of like when we talked on the phone, I love the 90s Full Moon because I
yeah,
liked when they were branching off into like the kids movies,
yeah,
like Oblivion,
yep,
all the Tim Thomerson flicks that he was
yeah,
involved with. There
yeah.
were just all these like funny because I think it was like more campy. Like I'm telling you that Trancers 2 movie, I never saw it in my life until 3 months ago. And
Oh
Shane,
yeah.
I can't stop
It's
thinking
it's
about
a
it.
great movie. It's a great movie, and I was always like, "Do you think we can get Tim for this? Do you think we can get Tim for this?" Like
Oh my god,
everything.
dude.
It's like, "Nope, not for
I
this
didn't
one,
know
not
he
for
was a
this one."
serious guy. Oh no, no, well,
Yeah,
no. I'm sorry. He was a stand-up comedian, or was he
he
a serious
was.
actor? I forget.
Well, he's done both, but he started he was a stand-up comedian, and he was
Oh,
absolutely hysterical. He was,
really?
um, like the Jim Carrey of his day. I mean,
Really?
he was that good. He was awesome. Yeah, and still one of the greatest guys. I mean, he's just, any movie you'd see because he would be in all these low budget things, but then show up in some, giant studio movie, and it's
Yeah.
like he was just awesome. It was one of those guys like, ah, man, I'm good company when Thomerson comes on screen. But
Yeah, like
yeah, it
Tom
was just
Atkins would do that too. You'd see like all these
yeah,
like Tom Atkins movies, then an hour it's like, oh yeah, Lethal Weapon. It's like, oh, there
yep,
he is.
yep,
Like he'd have these big roles, and you'd be like, oh, I know that guy,
yeah,
like from
yeah,
those. But yeah, Thomerson, man, I think it's just the way the lines are delivered, and just they're so into it. Like
yeah,
when there's a scene, which again, I don't know, when somebody writes something, you never know what's going to happen. Like you said, you write something, it's the cheapest thing you do, pen and paper, and then you let the reader, make your story and like
yeah,
shoot the movie in their own brains. But that movie, first of all, they had a girl play Art LaFleur in the
yeah,
time travel back. So
yeah,
she has like a cigar butt in her mouth the whole movie.
yeah,
But like they try to blow up the captain,
yeah,
the old pitcher, and just the whole scene with the ham and hey, why is this turkey stuffed like a ham? Or why is this ham stuffed like a turkey? And he throws out the window in slow mo and it blows up. And then it's just ridiculous.
yeah. Well, it's awesome though. But back in the day, you would go to the movies and you would see, Star Wars or, Return of the Jedi. And then the next week, playing on the same screen would be something like a full moon movie,
Yeah.
Trancers or whatever. And we didn't think anything about it. I mean, you knew it wasn't Star Wars. I mean, you knew it wasn't that huge, but they were very charming and well made. And those were, I mean, full moons always had low budgets, but compared to what it's been over the past 10 years. I mean, those are like, you mega blockbusters compared to what we
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just, it's not even really, I always say it's not even the money, it's the time.
Mhm.
Like some of these movies we shoot in like 4 days, 5 days,
Oh yeah.
Some of them have been done in like 3 days.
David Duchovny shot the one movie with Andy in 48 hours or 72
Yeah.
hours. A
Yeah.
talking cat or talking pony
Yeah.
was the one that Andy
Yep.
worked on.
Yep. Yep. So, it's you literally can't do anything in that time, but you give somebody you know, in Ohio that same amount of money and unlimited time, they're going to come up with something awesome. It's
Yeah.
just, it's going to be something really cool, but we can't do it because we have schedules and got to pay people and, all this other stuff, feed people. But yeah, I just kind of kept it going. There was a time, especially in these Bong movies, Charlie was trying to sell this real shit, uh, line of toys, the badass dolls, and they weren't good, and there wasn't really any interest in them. But I had to keep creating. Well, the characters like would be based off of one of these dolls, so every movie you would have to stop the movie and like have one of the characters talk about these damn dolls, and
Nice product placement for
it
your
was
own product.
this product placement, but nobody was buying this stuff, to my knowledge. I mean, some of them they did, like Evil Bong, they did, and Ooga Booga, and a couple other things. But it was just like, these aren't funny. These are I'm really not comfortable with these. And they had the actors show up on set. I would apologize. They're like, "Hey, this is the writer," and I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
So you have to be around while these movies are shot. You're
Yeah, I
there
was
the
always
whole time.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like showing up and watching
Oh yeah,
Charlie
totally.
do it. And Charlie's like so like at home on a set. He loves it. He loves being there, and he loves the people. And for as ragtag as these movies are, it's some of them like you can't even really call them a movie, but
Yeah.
it's really a lot of fun with everybody. I mean, I met Andy, and I met, so many other people that, uh, they come and go or come back, and, this and that. And it's just like, that was our family, because we churn these movies out so fast, and then we do it again and again and again, hanging out with these people all day and just, cracking up and, having that experience was amazing. So, Andy's been a friend of mine for, you know, maybe about 15 years or so. He's a great guy. He's a great friend.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
wonder if somebody ever I'm sure somebody's worked for all of them, but I wonder, like, how they would discuss, like, I've talked to people who work at Trauma, obviously Full Moon, working for, like, Roger Corman. So it is funny how it's like there's, like, this beauty to sometimes there is a beauty to having a smaller budget or smaller time period. Obviously,
yeah,
you get to the point where it's too smaller, in both senses, but
right.
there's some, like, beauty of, like, even, like, Jim Wynorski, like, giving how he is who he is, no matter what. Like, if you heard stories about him, he owns it. Like, in the when I was
Yeah,
talking to him, I didn't even mention anything about any of those stories or things, and he would just
yeah,
bring them up and say
yeah,
these.
yeah,
But anyway, but like even like Sorority House Massacre too. Like I think the beauty in that movie is like, Roger's wife, they were going on vacation and he was trying to pitch the movie to Roger, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you could do the movie, and we have this house that we have this set we're gonna knock down, uh, but not until next week." So he's like, "Fuck, I have a week." So he gets those girls, he does that movie in that house, and it's like, wow, this is actually cool. Like so campy, the overacting, but there's just something about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We did. Well, I wrote the 60-foot cam girl, and whatever they ended up calling the sequel. I don't know, giantess something battle attack, whatever it was. And I got along with Jim very well on the phone, and it's like, well,
Mhm.
he's like, well, want it to be like this and this. I'm like, I know. So I did it, and then he was fine. Went and shot it, and Jeff Leroy did great with all those miniatures and all that stuff. But I was really excited to work with Chuck Serino, because that's one of the most exciting things for me. Is like, I've been able to work with some composers, that because a lot of times I'll write to their music that
Me
they've done
too.
for other movies. Yeah,
Chuck's cool. I have his email. We're connecting with each other.
he's
But
in
I
a
love the movie Munchie. I love Munchie, and
yeah,
my daughter loves
yeah,
it. And when I used to study for school when I was going back, I would just rip through a bunch of
Yeah,
those of
yeah.
his soundtracks.
He is really just a never ending or interesting guy. He's just everything. He's super tech. He's really cool. He's very talented. He's really amazing. And so we did these things, and then on the second giant movie, I showed up on set, and Jim had a lot of health issues and everything. So he was sitting in this chair, and I walk in, and I was like, "Hey, Jim, how you doing? I suppose you're one of Charlie's fucking entourage." Like, no, Jim, I'm your writer, asshole. And God, he was impossible on that one. But and that day that I showed up, he'd yelled at every single, like, just screamed at everybody, and actually had his ass handed to him by one of the actresses. So he was kind of
Wow.
sitting there pouting when I walked in. But um, and he called me after all of that, and he goes, I got this other one. He goes, what do you think of this? He goes, from the director of Chopping Mall comes Chopping Mall. Okay, what is it? He goes, it's kind of a sequel to Chopping Mall. So we couldn't do a sequel to Chopping Mall at all because, Corman and everything. But we ended up doing Murderbot. And it was so. Charlie considers that to be the worst movie Full Moon has ever done.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know. There's a few from the '90s when that really dark period that would give it a run for its money, but that script was really good, and I wish Chuck got it. He just understood it. I mean, it was a Megan Bo ripoff, and
Yeah.
Jim just didn't understand a damn word of that thing. He didn't know what an AI was. He didn't know what a robot was. He didn't know anything. And oh god, that movie sucks so bad, so bad. But we got a great Chuck Sereno score out of it. So there's
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
That is true. That's cool, man. So Shane, I love doing these, and one of my favorite things to always ask folks is I know you always said like this is something you were gonna do, like this is like
yeah.
working in film, movies, but was there any other careers that you had interesting growing up? Like there's obviously like the normal jobs that people are looking for, but was there any
Oh,
that you had an interest in?
um, I had a lot of jobs. I had a lot of jobs. None of those really interested me that much.
Yeah.
But I all through high school and through college, I flipped pizzas. I still flip pizzas. All the time. People call me up like, dude, I've been jonesing for one of your pizzas, so I'll do that. At the beginning of the pandemic, that was how I conned everybody into coming down here to see
Nice.
people. I took orders like throughout the week, and then on Saturday I made pizza like one after boom, 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 and I would deliver it to the driveway. People would pick it up in the driveway, and I had tables set up, chairs, and everything, so people could talk from
That's
afar.
rad.
Andy came down, got one, all this, but
That's cool.
I did that, but I was very close and kind of serious about going into the mortical sciences. I was going to be like a mortician.
Really? I worked in the
Yeah.
funeral industry,
Did you?
but
Did
not
you?
I sold funeral insurance, but that was
Oh, okay. Yeah. No,
which is a bizarre thing
like,
to think about. Like that's
yeah,
illegal it's like illegal in like only like a few states. Like not like it's illegal. It's just like, hey, we don't want to do that. New Jersey's
yeah,
one of them. So I grew
yeah,
up not knowing about it. Then I get this job calling people that you're later in life anyway, and it's like, oh, you filled out this survey.
Yeah.
Are you interested in talking about your demise? Because that's what it
Yeah.
is. It's like,
Yeah.
what would you want on that day? Okay, all these things that you want, that'll be $16,500, but you could
Yeah.
pay these monthly payments, and it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
not a fun thing.
Yeah. Now I grew up kind of in a funeral home.
No way.
Yeah, all of my dad's best friends that he chummed around with all the time all worked at the funeral home. My dad did not. But we would go there, but they had their gun club and their, this thing and that thing and all this stuff. But, I was just always, always there, with him and, kind of playing around, running around with, one of the other guys, my dad's friend's daughter, Jennifer. But, we were kind of playing in the caskets and doing this and doing that, and all this stuff. But, I was around that. It just seemed kind of normal, you know. I didn't think there was anything weird about it, but I really considered that. I don't know. I probably should have done it. I would have been a lot better off, you know, you know, uh,
That's a good idea for a script. I don't know. I don't want to put it out there too much, but that'd be a good idea. Have like two kids hanging out,
yeah, yeah,
could be pretty good.
yeah. But,
Yeah.
there were things, you know, well, at this point, it's kind of like, friends my age ask each other, it's like, "So what would you do if, we weren't doing this?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have zero skills. You know, like my work for 30 years has absolutely nothing to do with anything in real life. Like
Sure.
there's absolutely nothing. Like they wouldn't hire me to shine shoes, because so you haven't worked. I'm like, no, I work every day, 6, 8 hours
Yeah,
a
yeah,
day. It's
yeah.
like, no, you don't work. No, I do work, but yeah, I have zero skills. So yeah, I don't know. I still kind of shocked. My anniversary of moving out here was just, well, 3 weeks ago. Oh, well, I
Oh,
guess
okay.
a month ago.
How many years?
29. So, I've lived.
29. Next year's a big anniversary.
Yeah, every year I'm kind of like, what am I still doing here? But I just packed my car full of pans, and some clothes and some Vincent Price VHS tapes. And I was like, I'm out of here, you know?
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things. You're young and you just do those things, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was going to do something.
But
And
you're doing something right.
I
Obviously
just,
it worked out.
yeah, I never looked at somebody else really and said, wow, that's a cool job. I wish I would have gone into that.
Yeah.
This is what I've only ever thought of this, which is stupid because, I should have become a mortician, then I could afford to fund my own movie. That's the way to do it moving forward because everybody's kind of out of business anyway, you know. Um, so you just got to making a living out of this stuff is really, really difficult anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about like mementos? Like early on in like taking those meetings, did you take any mementos? Like especially like Amblin, where you're like, oh yeah, I'll take that business card or
No,
anything like that along the way?
no, I really didn't. I have every business card that I ever collected here in my desk drawer from
That's cool.
when I
How
was
about like
doing.
Beneath Loch Ness? Do you have any of those like original scripts? Do you keep
I
that
I
stuff?
have a script that I have a few people when they were there had them sign it. I do that on some of the full moon movies, but like I couldn't tell you the name of most of the actors' names or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah, yeah.
but I get like the crew and this and that. Um, I've been waiting for a while. Tom Devlin was supposed to give me a Ouija from the Ouija's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I've been waiting for a while because I gave him I had a life-size Mike and Sully from Monsters Inc. that I donated to.
How'd you get that?
It was just a weird like contest thing that it was like a Toys R Us promotion
Yeah, yeah.
thing, and I was putting my name in like every day for my friend because he really wanted it. He was a big Disney head. And he was doing the same. Like he was putting my name in, his name in, all the way up in the valley. And I was kind of doing this down here. And I won. And I said, okay, I'll go pick them up. And when do you want me to drop them off at your house? He's like, oh no, you keep them. I'm like, no, 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 these are for you, not for me. I don't want
This
these.
is for you.
You know?
Yeah,
And he's like, no, 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 you won.
yeah.
I'm like, no, I didn't win.
Oh.
I'm like doing this for you. So we had these things for many years, and like all the neighbors would want to come over and take pictures with them, and all this stuff like that. We dress them up for Halloween, but they were so huge. They were so huge. They didn't fit anywhere in the house, and I couldn't bring
Yeah.
them. They wouldn't even come down the hallway. They wouldn't fit down the hallway. So, I asked him if he was interested, and he was like, "Oh hell yeah!" So I was trying to sell him, and then I was like, he'll. I love Tom, so I'll give him those. But I'm
Yeah.
still waiting on my Ouija. But and that's the movie actually where we had a little bit more control, and it was Danny Draven and I that did that.
Is that why your name's on it? That
Yeah,
Halloween night?
yeah, Halloween. And Charlie expected something totally, totally, totally different, and Danny and I kind of just said, like I said, I go, I want to do Ghoulies Go to Vegas. And so I
Oh,
want,
I would love that.
I want the characters to look like Beekler did them, and Tom was totally into that. But again, I was on the phone with Tom. I'm like, hey, can we get one of the puppets to do this? Or can we get one of the puppets to do that? And he goes like, oh hell yeah. And I knew that it was going to happen. So,
Yeah.
and one of the things that always I got tired of was, the puppets don't walk, they don't do this, they don't do anything. So I always had to have like a character pick the puppet up and move it around or put it in the bag or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So we actually made big puppet that was an actual human being inside, that was a little person. And they would, kind of do all of this stuff. Like for the really complicated things, it's like, we're just going to use the guy in the suit. But
Yeah, yeah.
that movie, there's some stuff that Danny was forced to do, like this kind of extended party thing that's just not funny in these
I'm reading
cameos.
about it right now that it says half or more of the revelers at the party are dressed up as characters from other full moon
Yeah,
franchises.
yeah, yeah. But we took over this hotel in Vegas, and the Artisan Hotel, and we just had like a full-time puppet crew. So while Danny was shooting actors and stuff like that, somebody would just be like, "Hey, there's a piano there. Just get that puppet and go play the piano." So we would just do this whole thing and do this whole thing. So there's a lot of cool puppet stuff in that movie.
Sweet.
It's got
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
gotta check
fun
that one
stuff.
out.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. There's a memorial for John Beekler in the credits.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
shows a photo of him of Ghoulies Good. I love that movie. I
yeah,
talked to a couple of people that worked on that. And it's just so cool because it's just the fact that Richard Kind is the voice of the cat ghoulie,
yeah. I know.
like,
Isn't that
just
crazy?
freaks me out.
Yeah,
That's insane.
yeah. I
It's
know.
insanity.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it's fun. Another movie that like gets itself. I talked to Patrick Laberto, who
Yeah,
you got to think with him, like growing up, he's on Little Ass on the Prairie, and then he was that awkward phase, like when you're between that teen, they don't know what to do with you, and then it all changed. But he did like a TV movie, and then he did summer school, and then he's in ski school, and Ghoulies Go to College.
yeah.
But no, I love that. I like that
Uh,
movie. That's cool that you thought of that
Patrick.
to be able like, oh,
Yeah,
let's the homage to Beekler.
yeah, yeah. Well, Charlie says that every creature that John made looked like John. And it's like, yeah, you're kind of right. You're kind of right when you really look
You
at
are
him.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The goalies kind of look like him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Patrick Laberto was a customer of mine at the video store. And
Really?
yeah, and my parents loved what was that? What was that show? It was a big show.
He was on Little House on the Prairie. He was a
Nah,
teen.
like
He was a
way
kid
after
on
that.
that.
It was that military.
Oh, Jag. He was on
Yeah,
Jag,
Jag. Yeah,
which he was on that for a long time.
long time. Yeah, he was on Jag, and I go,
Yeah.
hey, my parents would love this because they love your character. They're always talking so like in their little bathroom on the side of the bedroom is like there's a little picture of Patrick Laberto, and they're the sign to them. But yeah, he was a funny guy.
That's cool. They have that great connection. All those people, not all of them, but for summer school, him and Dean Cameron are still good buddies. He was telling me a story that like him and Dean Cameron were doing like a movie, and they were doing like a short film that they like they put the money together for.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm on set for Jag during the day, which like everything is like so expensive, the planes, like all these scenes. Then afterwards, me and Dean are running and trying to like steal these shots, all these places, and it's like
yeah,
so crazy the life of an actor being on this big. But yeah, no, that's cool. Patrick's a really down to earth guy.
yeah. He's a nice guy. Yeah.
Sweet. So Shane, Kent Roudebush, this is great. What are some obviously you're always writing. Do you have like a dream genre? I know you like horror, but is there any other genres that if somebody was like, hey, here, write this big budget movie, was there a genre you want to try to tackle?
Yeah. I love. I would love to be the kind of oddball bio guy. That's
Oh, okay.
I like I'm kind of sick of I don't watch the Marvel movies anymore. I don't watch DC.
Me
I don't
neither,
watch
yeah.
this stuff. It's like my life's too short for this stuff and it's too much homework and everything. But I love like the odd bio movies. Even like Blackberry and stuff like that and everything. I would love to do that because I have a bunch of ideas for things like that. Um,
Cool.
uh, Larry Kaczynski, Scott Alexander, those guys, I think are just, they can do no
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
I love their stuff. And, I was hired. This was kind of I pulled off an impossible task and it was a mission that was meant to fail. And I pulled it off kind of to everybody's shock. But a couple years ago, well, maybe it's been, I don't know, three, I don't know. I was called the night before I was going on vacation. And it's like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. You're like the fifth person we've called. I need a writer. We're doing the Johnny Depp Amber Heard story. And we need a script. Like, I don't know you. You were recommended by Ed Polgardy as a great producer. He did The Wretched and some other stuff. And I have some scripts with him. Couple things. But this guy wanted 6 months to do it. This guy wanted a year to do it. This guy wanted way too much money to do it. This guy wanted this. We can't do any of these. This is what I'm offering you. And I need a script in 2 weeks. Like, it can be crap. I don't care. It just has to be words on a page because I have this huge marketing thing. We're going to roll this out. We're going to announce it, and people are going to be. And these guys have produced some, a lot of bigger or well-known bio movies. I don't want to say they're huge, like studio
Yeah, yeah.
movies, but like Whitney Houston and all this stuff like this.
Oh,
Like
okay.
we just need this, and I was like, okay. They're like, what do you mean, okay? I go, okay, yeah, you got it. You got it. I can do this. And they're like, all right, well, call if you have any problems or questions or anything. I'm like, no, we're good. So the next morning, I went on vacation for a week. And I'm like, I was thinking about it, but I'm like, I can't write. I'm not here. I'm, here with family, and I need to spend time with family and all, all this stuff
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
But I'm like thinking about it. And then this producer's calling me, hey, how's it going, man? I'm like, yeah, it's going great. And I don't even tell him I'm on vacation. So I finally get back and I was like, I gotta burn this shit out. So I just started, you know, thoughts in my head and doing research and all this stuff. And it was the everything leading up to the trial. And, in a way I was like, I've done, Evil Bong, I've done the Dead Want Women, all of this stuff. And this is the most exploitative thing I've ever worked on.
Yeah.
And it's just totally exploitation. But his thing was like, we got to be the first ones. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
we're not
yeah.
the first ones out there, then we're dead. So
Exactly, yeah.
I banged out that script, and it was flat out some of the best work I've ever done. And
Wow.
turned it in. Well, and I called him. I said, hey guys, I know you wanted it on Friday. I'm sorry. He goes, I knew it. This guy, just a piece of shit. He's going to make me wait for like another 2 months. I knew it. I knew you were going to screw me. I knew you were going to screw me. I'm like, no, I'll turn it in. It's, you want it on Friday, but I can turn it in, like Saturday afternoon. Is that okay? And they're like,
Ah.
seriously? I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll be done. I turn it in, and everybody's like, well, we thought this was just going to be a piece of crap. Like, we can go shoot this tomorrow. We can go do this. And Armand Mastriani was, uh, there in development and everything with it and everything. And he's like, we can shoot it tomorrow. But then, like, I held up my I was looking at this like, yeah, I mean, it's really exploitation. I wasn't picking a side. I wasn't picking a side on it
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
but they're both horrible people. But
yeah.
but like, this can finally lead to that thing of because they wanted me to do another bio thing that was kind of happening in the news. But I'm like, this can kind of lead to me doing those things that I really want to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but nothing happened. They didn't
Ah,
they didn't they didn't hold up their side of the bargain, really. They
that's
didn't make
crazy.
that announcement. They didn't do whatever. And they were just like, yeah, no, this is great. This is great. But they also had like all of the other writers that had, weren't able to do it. Now
Mhm.
we're all reading it, and now everybody wanted to be a part of it. So I'm like,
Oh man.
they kind of got into the producer's head, and they're like, yeah, but I would have done this and I would have done this. And he just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know now. I lost my gut, but on it.
Yeah.
But
Oh
so I'm
man.
like, oh, well, but
But you did it. Obviously,
I
the
did
end
it.
goal, obviously, you want the job, but it gives you that confidence building
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and like to
Yeah.
be able to do something like that. It's something you fell in love with. So, but again, you
Yeah.
love it so much. There's no end. That's one thing I love about Hollywood. Like, you never know when that script's gonna pop, or even that role's gonna pop. Obviously, like for the most part, it's like, oh yeah, it's very rare for an actor or an actress to get big at a certain age. But some of those movies, if it's a script's a script. Like if it's good, it's good, and
Yeah.
somebody reads it and they like it, they're gonna
Yeah.
like it. It's not like they're
Yeah.
looking at age or anything when they read the script.
Yeah.
They see the name, they read it.
But that was one of those things about that script is, people were like, well, just use it as a sample, use it as a sample. I'm like, but they didn't make it so it looks like just some weirdo doing,
I wrote this spec script about Amber
right,
Heard and
right,
Johnny Depp. Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
And now things have sort of changed even more so with, their stuff. It's like, you know, now they're both just completely bonkers, you know,
Yeah.
everything. But like the ending and the sort of the point of the movie is not the point anymore. So it's like, oh, well, still, it's a good sample, but you would look at it as maybe I should just change it to like, you know, rich guy, rich woman type thing.
Just change the names. Yeah. Just do like
Yeah,
control, find and replace and just
yeah,
change Johnny
exactly.
Depp to John
Exactly.
something.
Yeah, but I was so happy with that script, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, man." But again,
Man.
hooray for
Shane, it's been
Hollywood.
awesome, man. 90
Yeah.
minutes, man. Usually these go about an hour, which again, it's the longer the better because the conversation. One thing I have to mention to you, I think we might have talked about it on the phone, or maybe I'm just having this weird connection with someone else. But Grizzly 2, I love that you
Yes.
say Grizzly. Have you seen it?
Yep, I saw it. I saw it.
See, that's like to me, that is in the realm of that campiness because I interviewed the producer, the lady who worked on the original, and she
Yeah.
only like worked in the office, kind of like sort of
Oh,
doing like the budgeting.
yeah,
And the fact that she had this idea all those years later to get it made, and it's so corny, the stuff they had to add in, but they had to do it. Like those
yeah,
concert scenes, you're like, all right, that's not from 1982, but it's
yeah,
but
I
it's
know.
like cool and it
Yeah.
works. Like the cast in it is like it's pretty amazing for some cast director and nail those people
George
that are in
Clooney.
that first.
Yeah, yeah.
Clooney, Laura Dern, and
Dern.
Charlie Sheen all together.
Yeah,
And then all of them kind of like Sheen popped right away, but Dern took a little while,
yep,
like after that. And even
yep,
Clooney, like, yeah, he took 10 years after that to really, he's a Revenge of the Killer. What is it? Return of the Killer Tomatoes or Revenge of
yeah,
one of those.
yeah.
But
I think it was Return, I think.
yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. I just like
Yeah,
sometimes just
that's
talking
great.
shop and just talking film. And I love the fact that again, not saying that, obviously there's like nature versus nurture, but like your nature, having that right behind you, having a theater like there, the osmosis from being able to see that drive-in,
Yeah,
like even if you couldn't hear it when you're younger, that's like such a cool thing because it's so much bigger. When you see a movie in the drive-in, which anybody listening, if you haven't, I feel like you have to. There's a place in
yeah,
Pennsylvania by me, but it is like it's the only time I ever did it. Last summer, I saw Friday the 13th, 5 to 7, and I'm telling you, like 5 was still great because I love it. It wasn't fully dark yet,
yeah.
but that opening scene of Jason Lives when the lightning bolt hits, it was
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
so cool, and it
yeah.
was pitch dark in the middle of nowhere, just like a special experience for any like
One of
film
the
lover.
one of the last movies I saw at that drive-in was Friday the 13th 8. Yeah.
Oh, one of my favorites because obviously all of my favorites, like since it's kind of set in New Jersey, but just the Manhattan thing, just that again, as corny as it is still I love it.
I
I
like
just
it.
can't
I like them
get
all.
away from it.
I like them
How
all.
did they get out of the lake and go right into New York City? I don't know,
Who cares?
but it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Well, now we have to explain every little detail. It just takes all of
That's
the
why I
fun
love
out
those
of it.
movies. The formulaic movies just won't work anymore because people like need so much. Just
Yeah,
give me the killer. Let me meet a group of people and then let them have their own little vignettes. Oh, let me learn about you for 5 minutes.
yep,
You're dead. Let me learn about you, like William Butler in Seven.
yep, yep,
He's arguing with his girlfriend and then he gets murdered. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's
yeah.
just
They're
not.
great.
It just it's different, but at least we still have them to go back and watch.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Rock on,
All
Shane,
right,
Kent
man.
Roudebush. I'm happy we did this, and I'm happy that Audio Andy connected us, man.
Yeah, me too.
Man, so Shane went with his uncle as the name, and man, his brother's got him in big trouble. But man, it was just so cool to hear his perspective on the reasons why he has to use a pseudonym. It's not like he's not proud of the work because he's writing it. People are enjoying it, and that's it. That's the goal, right? Is to write something maybe like you don't have your full 100% like love in the project, but people are enjoying it. So it's got the fruits of your labor has to be a good thing. So your homework, Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. It's on Tubi. It's got Kelly Maroney. It's got Michelle Bauer. It is going to be so much fun. It's an hour. So get ready. There's a creature in there. That's why it's perfect because we always talk about it. The late great Dominic, Shane's buddy. So it's kind of like it's great because we were talking about critters, gremlins, ghoulies, hobgoblins, just like a few episodes ago. So it's perfect. This one has a creature and Jamie has no clue. So it's going to be fun. So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.